So don't ever give up trying to find what you need in order to be successful. There's always a solution. There's a book that I love. And, it's like the 7 laws of spiritual success and whatnot. But there is realistically a solution to every problem. And now me, after practicing that for so long, and I think that's why I've been so successful, even after massive crap has happened and everything's fallen apart around me, is because I'm like, there has to be a solution. It may not look like what I want, but there is a solution. And it may not feel good, but there is a solution to get me out of where I'm at right now to where I need to get to. And sometimes it's stepping stones. The stepping stones are slippery too. You just have to be okay with learning resilience. That's everything.
Hello, fellow entrepreneurs and goal getters. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within, with myself, your host, Kelly Beveridge, and a dear friend of mine today, Jenna Jeffries. And I am just so blessed and excited to have her on the call today. We have been friends for a long time. I was thinking about it before this podcast. And before I introduce her credentials, Jenna, I just want to say, I don't even know if you realize the impact you've had on my life. You have helped me out so much throughout the years. I was thinking about it in business. You've helped me out with money, with how to make money, in my relationships, with how to love myself and believe in myself. And you've just always been there as a friend to lean on and somebody to talk to. And I just think the world of you. And so just thank you so much. So as a friend, I respect you and cherish you.
You're going to make me cry.
And I just was like, it's very true and genuine. I was literally sitting here thinking before you hopped on. And what I love about Jenna as well, even though she's so genuine and just that amazing girl's girl, she is a powerhouse. So she's always been somebody who's successful in my mind that I've looked up to. And she has stepped into many things, which I'm going to share right now. So she is the vice president and partner of a publicly traded mental health company called mindbalance.org. She's the partner of a company called Body Balance, which is an online supplement store, and many other things. She has passion for yoga, and she has been a yoga and meditation teacher for many years. She's also an internationally published model. And she just was talking to me about the fact that she's in process of writing her first book. And that's just amongst so many other things. She's also a Canadian living in Florida who recently has been married. And I'm just so happy to see you get this love story that you so deserve. I'm so happy to see you step into this success that you so deserve and own it. And just to see you flourishing and just make me so stoked. And so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about life and our insecurities and the trials and tribulations that we go through, and just really how important it is to have a mindset to support us and fall into one of the most important pieces, which is self-acceptance. And so before we get going, what I would love to just start with, Jenna, is maybe just take us back, because you've had many chapters as an entrepreneur throughout your life, which we'll talk about some of them. But take me back, like, when was the first time you decided you wanted to be an entrepreneur? And maybe take us through the journey of your story of why you even chose entrepreneurship.
It's so funny, Kelly. And thank you for everything, by the way. I adore you. Oh my gosh. What would I have done without Kelly in my life? That it wouldn't be complete. To be very truthful on that. Sorry. Okay. I remember, it was funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I remember being a kid playing in my room, and I literally put everything together in my room, my toys, my books, everything. And I pretended that I had an old cash register and I was selling these items. So that was my first real distinction that I'm going, I'm not going to be good working for anybody. I think I might have to do this for myself. So that always was in my mind. I didn't really know what that really meant. I think I was 8 or 9 years old at that time, but I always looked at people who owned businesses as, man, how did they do that? I was curious as a kid. My mom and my dad did not work. That's not true. My dad worked for himself, but my mom did not. My mom was a teacher. She was a music teacher. She was a counselor. She was an English major. She was a brilliant woman. And my dad, brilliant man, who also worked for himself because he was a minister, but he also taught himself 7 languages, for goodness sakes.
Mm.
So I saw that, and to me, that's an entrepreneurial spirit because you're stepping into something that you don't know how to do and you teach yourself how to do that. That's crazy cool. So that's my first memory of pretending that I had a cash register. Saying that, first bump into entrepreneurship. My dad had passed away when I was young. I was 16 and I needed a job badly. I was modeling in California. I had to come back to Canada. My contract had ended. My dad had passed away. We needed money. And my poor mom had lost her own mother and her own husband within not even a week of each other. So she didn't fare well. She collapsed. So I recognized I, at the age of 16, had to figure something out. So I actually got a job as a shampoo girl in a salon that had hair as well as aesthetics. And it was from people who I went to church with at that time. And they said, look, if you can work Thursday nights and Friday nights and all day Saturday, then we'll hire you. I was like, of course. Yes, absolutely. Lo and behold, they decided that they were going to sponsor me for my apprenticeship. And so I got my whole entire certification for hair, colorist, and then also aesthetics because I became really good friends with the esthetician there. Her name was Charlene, but I call her Charlie. That's her nickname. And we became fast sisters at that time, even though she was in her 30s. And yeah, she was in her 30s and I was coming up on 19 or 18 years old eventually. And that was my first drop into entrepreneurship because what happened was once I had fulfilled all my licensing requirements, there was someone in the school that was on the board of the apprenticeship program for the province of Alberta. And she owned a salon and spa and she saw my talent. She said, I want you to manage my place.
Mm.
And I had a hard time because I was really devoted to the people that I was working with, but I really wanted this great opportunity. So I negotiated with both to do both. It was my first
I love that.
entrepreneurial contract as a subcontractor. So I decided I'm going to phase out of one location and go into the new location as their manager. And within 6 months, I ended up buying the place. The owner of that place, she was going through a horrible divorce and she ended up having a nervous breakdown. And I happened to be cutting the hair of one of her clients who happened to be a bank manager. And he said, I know the situation. What are you going to do? She's been a good friend of mine for 20 years. I know she means this seriously, but she can't work. She's very serious about. And I said to him, where am I going to get $20,000? It just turned 18. Keep in mind, I'd gone through all this schooling and whatnot. And he goes, come see me at the bank on Monday. Okay, made the appointment, went and saw him on Monday at noon. He co-signed a loan for me for $20,000.
I love this story. I have a question because there's a common thread that you're talking about right now. And that's two parts to this common thread. One, people saw something in you that they were willing to give you a chance.
Yeah.
And two, you obviously were showing up in a certain way that they wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So speak a little bit to that, right? Like you're there and then people see your talent and then they ask you to come manage. And then this guy wants to give you a loan. You could maybe say right place, right time. Yet I think it's more than that.
I really do believe it's more than that because he also knew at that same time, I was also doing my personal training designation. So I was at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, working on my hours, finishing my certification exams and all of the logistics that I had to submit in order to get that. So he saw my dedication, not only for work, but for educating myself, because I really thought, here I am. I'm working in this salon. I brought in a lot of the spa components to it because I had that training and that certification, as well as I brought in massage therapy, as well as I brought in people that did nutrition. And those were all elements that I thought were really interesting because I also, with the personal training, was also doing my holistic nutritionist licensing at that time. The personal training didn't take very long. The holistic training took about 2 years. It was quite daunting. But that's really why I feel that he took a chance on me because at the age of 18, I turned up to everything. I didn't slack. I didn't sit there and go, "Oh, I want to go party." I wasn't a party girl by any means of the world. Quite frankly, I was quite boring. I didn't like to go to the bars. I didn't like to drink a lot of alcohol. It made me feel like crap. Why would I waste a day? And at the same time, I wanted better for myself. Both of my parents immigrated to Canada. They were
Mm.
not born Canadian. My mom came from India, a very poor part of India, and my dad came from Germany. They adopted me. So I was lucky to be in that placement of a home where I had support, and my parents, they saw that I was driven. That was just something that I always did. I always wanted to do better. And I think a lot of it may have been from the fact, partly from fear that was ingrained in me. I don't care what anybody says, but when you've been adopted, and don't forget they didn't tell me anything, but when you're adopted and you just feel like you don't fit, you do your best to fit. Some people go in a
Mm.
way that it's not necessarily healthy. Other people go in a way that's like, no, I need to make sure I can stand on my own 2 feet. And that's why I did what I did, because I always thought if something falls apart, I've got this as a backup. That falls apart, I've got this as a backup. I always wanted to make sure I could take care of myself.
Yeah, and that's really impressive that you got that instilled in yourself at such a young age because that's not the norm.
No.
Yet, like you said, it could be because of your background and being adopted, or also too, like you said, just it was your mindset at the time and it presented these opportunities for you. So, what would you share to people right now who they feel like they may be having this entrepreneurial spirit or bug or something's calling to them? And at the same time, they just don't know what to do or where to go, or their insecurities might be getting in the way, like, I don't know how, or I'm not capable enough. And so, what would you share to somebody in that space?
In today's age of technology, we're blessed because we can do a lot of research on Google. Not that everything on
Hmm.
Google is believable. Doesn't matter what anybody says. Google, Safari, Go, Duck, Go, whatever it is, it's not always believable. But we, at a touch of our fingers, can research. And I heard a quote the other day saying that research is not to prove what you believe to be true. Research is to disapprove what you believe to be true. And then you will get a lot of valid information. So I say now, start doing some research, even if you don't know what you want to do as an entrepreneur. Don't be afraid of the possibility, and don't look at it, I can't make any money doing that. How would you know if you haven't done it? I'm sorry, but when they started Amazon with just books, did they think it was going to be what it is now? I always tell
Hmm.
people when you write a business plan, keep in mind that is not your forever template. That business plan is to be molded and manipulated and trashed and redone and reproduced multiple times over the facet of your engagement with whatever business you may be building. So I always say as well, if it doesn't make you excited, then don't go there, because
Mm.
no matter what, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It is not easy. Yes, I can make my own schedule and sometimes I can work up beside the pool, but sometimes I am working until midnight on nights I don't want to work until midnight. And then I've got a meeting at 5 o'clock in the morning after 3.5 hours of sleep. Or I don't know when the next amount of money is going to come in. So I've got to make sure that I'm positioning myself financially to cover those bases. And sometimes it's not enough. So I got to be smart, figure out how I'm going to make something up, how I'm going to fix it, how I'm going to do this. There's a lot of scary elements to it. But just because it's scary doesn't mean it's not doable.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. When what you're talking about, share. So you got your first taste of entrepreneurship. You've got this $20,000, right? You can get going
yes.
and it propels you into the land of being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about some of the challenges that came up for you. And you were just alluding to some, yet some of the challenges that came up for you and what insecurities did it bring out of yourself
Mhm.
that you then had to work through?
And it's something that I still even face today. And unfortunately, I think a lot of women face it today still. Is I just had this situation not even 2 weeks ago. People will look at you and see A, you're a woman, and B, you may or may not have a particular hair color, and C, you might actually wear makeup. And D, they consider that you can't do it and you're stupid. So I had a lot of pushback on that. I was too young. Now I can say I'm almost 50, right? Then I was 18 or I was 19 or I was 21 or I was 24. The ageism factor was really difficult. Being a female was really difficult. So I had to arm myself with knowledge. And that is a big thing. Whatever industry you go into, you don't need to go into it knowing everything. We don't go into math in grade 3 and know what we're supposed to know by the end of grade 3. That's why we're in school. So I always schooled myself. So I would have more information. If I didn't have enough information, I would not be afraid to ask. And sometimes, yes, it means swallowing your pride. Sometimes, yes, it's being told, you should know that if you're stupid, if you're doing this, you should know that already. I don't. That's why I'm asking. And if that person's not going to give you the answer, then find it elsewhere. So don't ever give up trying to find what you need in order to be successful. There's always a solution. There's a book that I love. And, it's like the 7 laws of spiritual success and whatnot. But there is realistically a solution to every problem. And now, me, after practicing that for so long, and I think that's why I've been so successful, even after massive crap has happened and everything's fallen apart around me, is because I'm like, there has to be a solution. It may not look like what I want, but there is a solution. And it may not feel good, but there is a solution to get me out of where I'm at right now to where I need to get to. And sometimes it's stepping stones. The stepping stones are slippery too. You just have to be okay with learning resilience. That's everything. And not
Oh my
beating
gosh.
yourself up. I still beat myself up sometimes going, I should have known better. Crap, I should have followed my intuition. I did know better, but I did it anyways. Or listening to someone that doesn't necessarily know what I'm trying to do and taking the word as gospel because I revered them instead of thinking to myself, okay, their information is valuable, but it doesn't fit for what I'm trying to do. I need to research more. I need to ask more questions to others. That
Yeah.
those are essential.
Oh my gosh, you shared so many nuggets in there. I know you and I were talking earlier, and in relation to you saying like that, adopting that belief that there is a solution for everything. It also aligns with what you were sharing in our previous conversation, where you said, yes, I've been through so much, yet I also believe in manifestation because I was always holding on to where I knew I wanted to go and
Yes.
where I knew I was the direction I was going in.
Yes.
And so let's maybe talk about that a little bit because my audience is a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of women. And so I want to talk about this idea of trials and tribulations, yet personally and then in business, because we show up in business and we want to look strong and be resilient. Yet the truth is, so many people have things going on behind closed
Yes.
doors that is impacting our ability to show up in a way we would desire.
Correct.
And I know you have been through the ringer in a lot of areas personally. And I would love to talk about this because I think that a lot of people listening can relate that we don't have to let what's happened to us define us.
No.
And I know, for example, if we're looking at the personal side of things, and this could be men and women, you've gone through an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
You, as you already shared, were adopted, right? Which can play tricks on our mind. You lost your mom to dementia, I believe, not
Alzheimer's.
right?
Yes.
Alzheimer's. Okay, Alzheimer's, right? Quite a few years ago. And you're now on your own. You were on your own for many years. So can you chat about some of those events in your life and just talk about how you got through it and the lessons you learned? Because I just think, unfortunately, these are common things that are happening while we're attempting to move forward and be successful in our businesses and other areas of our life.
Yeah. One of the things I've learned throughout my journey is the word hustle has a very negative connotation. And I don't use it. I don't use the word hustle. I don't use the word grind. And I refuse to use those now. In my 20s, I did because that's what I was taught or that's what I thought other people were doing. The fact of the matter is there must be balance in your life. If your work is becoming so overwhelming, pardon me, that you can't protect your own mental health, you can't take care of yourself properly, meaning you're not sleeping well, your exercise, your physical activity, your friendships, your relationships, even your relationship to self start to suffer, then you have to stop and you have to recalibrate because every success that we create comes from an internal belief system. We are energy first, period. And not only are we energy, but we give and we receive energy. And our heart center, and this has been scientifically proven finally, but our heart center actually has a vibrational frequency that emits such powerful frequencies that people in a room can feel it. When people walk into a room and you're like, ooh, I just don't like that energy. That's the same thing when you walk into a room and it's gracious and it's loving and it's a big hug almost. We have to in turn do that for ourselves. If we can't emit that type of frequency, it's because we are not caring for ourselves. And then nothing in our wake will survive or thrive. It's impossible. It is literally impossible. And the other element of it, and this is a big thing for me, is being authentic. A lot of the times there is this imposter syndrome that we talk about as entrepreneurs. We all go through it thinking, oh my goodness, here I'm with this vast group of people. They look all so successful. And here I just made $10,000 this year in my business. We have to stop that comparison and be authentic and say, you know what? I had a rough year. I've been launching this. Things didn't work out. I didn't know what I was doing. I've tried and tried and tried again. And I had to fail forward. That's what failure is. It is not a bad thing. It's just like perfect example. Like I'm helping raise my husband's youngest son. He just turned 13 and he's being raised somewhat of a single kid, even though he's got three much older siblings in their 20s. Fact of the matter is, I'm a bit of a tough parent. I'm a bit of a tough nugget because if he F's up, that's on him. I'm not going to rescue him. And the reason for that is because we need resilience in our character to come up to solutions. We all have consequences with our thoughts and our directives and our actions, but what does that mean? So sometimes for me, for example, I remember, I'll tell you a short story. Yes, I've been on my own for a very long time. Actually, before I met my husband, I lived on my own for 11 years. I was in relationships, had phenomenal people in my life. The unfortunate thing in 2010, I was married to someone who I was in a marriage for 9 years, who's extremely emotionally abusive. And he's the one who actually did abuse me to the point of having a brain injury. So that was catastrophic for me. I had built up substantial wealth. I owned a wellness and medical spa at that time. And I was also in real estate. And what had happened was he did that the same night that my aunt died, my mom's sister. And I had been with my aunt the night before and while she was dying, and she begged me to not do anything. So I had to make the final decision that when my aunt went in the hospital the next morning, there was no resuscitation, no nothing done. I go home to the person that I lived with and was married to at that time, and he proceeded to go out at Stampede, have a great time, drink his face off, and decided to bring someone home. And I've been sleeping in the guest room for 3 years. It wasn't like I was like, okay, but bringing someone to your own home is uncomfortable. So I had to face something that was felt like a really large betrayal, even though we are in separation. You just don't do that. That's just not honorable. He then proceeded to do what he did. And the next day, I had to make a decision. since my aunt had passed, am I going to sit and let this own me, or am I going to move forward? And I had to move forward. I had some major decisions to make in my life, but not only then, I had to make decisions for my mother because my mother's Alzheimer's and dementia was really starting to peak and she couldn't make any decisions at that time. So what I had to do was dig deep into what I knew who I was, knowing that I've gone to school, I worked 2 jobs, I've made sure that I ran that business. I've done a lot of things. So I had to pull from my toolbox and go, okay, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to get through this? 1 minute at a time. Break it down, find solutions. And one thing that women are not good about is asking for help. And I was certainly one of them. Still, even to this day, I struggle with it. But gratefully, I've got people in my life that have shown me that I can actually rely on them. For the first time in my life, I have a true core group of people that I know I can rely on without question. And that was a lesson for me because I hadn't built that around me. I always thought I had to do everything myself. So, as entrepreneurs, when you're linking with network groups or you're linking with friends, if you've got naysayers around you, you need to delete that. I don't care if they're your family. They just need to not be spoken to about what you're doing, and their opinions need to fall on deaf ears. That's where you need to get tunnel vision and find the solutions that you need. Start combining efforts with other people, collaborate, find a group of people that you can go, I'm feeling really crappy today because I feel like I'm going to fall apart. Be authentic with where you're at. If you can't do that, I really don't feel that with your manifestation opportunities in front of you, you can see the truths that come from it. It's a mishmash of energy.
Mhm.
Everything,
Man, everything. Go ahead.
yes, everything is energy. I know it's so cliche, but everything is energy.
Yeah, so true.
Just stop putting things into a box as well. I find speaking with entrepreneurs in all levels, they get stuck on how it's supposed to look or how they're supposed to get there. Get the hell out of your way. Notice they said that instead of HELL, but get the hell out of your way. You can say get the hell out of your way, but get the hell out of your way because that's actually stopping you from progressing. The how is none of your business, but finding solutions are. Once you find the solutions, then the hows appear. Makes sense.
Oh my gosh. Jenna, everything you're sharing is so on point. I love it. And
Good.
I'm so grateful that you dug deep to make different decisions to propel yourself into a safer environment.
Oh, yeah.
And, just repeating back what I heard you say in a few paraphrases is really one, making sure that you're focused on the solution, right? It's so key. I love that. Get the how out of the way, get the hell out of the way. A lot of times we're the person who's stopping us from moving forward in our life,
In
right?
everything.
And choosing to be resilient, looking for validation in ourselves when we're not feeling at our best. Go back and filter through our life. I love this saying, measure your success backwards, because there is evidence, there is
Yeah.
validation for every single person listening to this episode that you can find about yourself, that whatever it is that you need to do to move forward, whatever decision is that you need to make, there is evidence and validation somewhere to prove to yourself that you can do it. Right.
Absolutely.
And surround yourself with amazing people, which is why I love that you and I keep winding back into our lives.
Mhm.
And I have a couple questions, but I also want to share. I love when you talk about authenticity, which is tell the truth. That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
I'm hearing you say when you talk about authenticity. Just be real.
And tell the truth, not only to others, but more so to yourself. I like this phrase that I've been using, and you probably have heard me say it multiple times. Do you want me to tell you the truth that's going to hit you, or do you want me to tell you the truth that's going to hit you between your eyes? Yeah.
Between the eyes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you can't be truthful, even the little white lies will build up. And I have made it a mission of mine, certainly since I've been about 35 years of age, to not BS. Because if I'm BSing to you, then what the heck am I? How dare I? How dare I think that other people can't handle my truth? If they can't, that's okay. More than anything, I need to be able to be fully truthful. Because if I'm not, I'm never going to get what I want. I'm never going to get what I deserve. And sometimes people don't like the truth, and that's okay. That's a prerogative. But I'm not going to get caught up in the fact that they don't like it, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's structural, whatever it might be. You have to be authentic, and finding what that authenticity within yourself really is supernatural key to everything to evolve in your life moving forward.
Yeah, no, I love this. I want to stay on this for a second because I
Sure.
think it's crucial because I'm even just thinking of myself as you're speaking, and I'll be transparent. I'm a people pleaser. I like to be liked. That was the old version of me. I'm still working on it. And used to do this when I couldn't make a meeting or somebody asked me to go do something and I didn't want to. I would tell a white lie. Like I would share something like, "Oh, apologies," and I'd share something like
Yeah.
innocent enough, right?
Right.
This is just obviously a small example, yet it's huge.
Yeah.
Because how many people listening do that? If somebody asks you to do something on a Friday night, do you say no and then share the truth? Or do you share a little tiny white lie if you can't make a meeting? So
And
talk about how this starts to damage our self-worth,
oh,
damage our belief in ourselves, damage our integrity, because that's
oh,
what self-worth is. So can you speak to that?
mhm. Absolutely. I actually had a conversation with a dear friend of mine about this the other day. And it was truly funny because when we talk about it, it was because she was in a dating experience. And she's like, just don't know how to tell this guy just isn't there. And I'm like, tell him exactly that. It just isn't there. Like, why are we taught that we have to put fluff around what is truth? Truth is not fluffy. And I liken it to this. If you're consistently saying little white lies to get you out of little things that you don't really feel like doing, it doesn't matter to them. But what it does is it matters to you because you can't necessarily say that you are building up your self value by not expressing your truth. It's impossible. Your truth is innately, intimately, spiritually, divinely led. It is yours. So if you are not willing to express that truth, and you can sugarcoat it all you want, but as long as you're getting down to the nitty gritty of it, you can even apologize profusely if you want. But if you're not speaking that real red line truth, then you're lying to yourself first.
Absolutely. And you know what? I can tell you from experience, just based on the story I shared, when I caught myself and I believe awareness before change, and I was like, wow, this is crazy that I'm doing this because I consider myself a very integral person.
I know,
And
right?
I stopped doing it years ago. And I can tell you it is empowering.
It
It
is.
is empowering.
It
And
is.
it's so empowering. And as you're sharing, so if I stop doing that with others, then I'm going to start to trickle and stop doing that within myself as well. And so I love your message
It's
there.
very empowering. And there's another side to it because we always say, oh, I really just want people to love me for me. How can they if you keep lying to them? And how can you love yourself for you if you keep lying to yourself? You're saying one thing, but your internal voice is saying another. How is that developing trust within yourself? It's impossible. And personally, you know me, I'm like, Friday night, you want me to go do what? Yeah, no. And I will tell people, don't even think about trying to get me out on a Friday night. It is once in a blue moon that I will go out on a Friday night. And I don't like crowds because I'm an empath and loud noises eventually will just irritate the psychic in me. I can't handle it for long. People know me. If Jenna goes out, she will go out for maybe a couple of hours and then all of a sudden she says her goodbyes and disappears. And there's lots of times people say, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to? No, Can't do it. That is not my crowd. I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I didn't mention in your intro that you are an intuitive and a healer,
Yes.
right? And so it's about putting up those boundaries that work
Oh,
for
yes.
you. You mentioned this when you were chatting earlier, and I want to ask, you talked that your internal belief system is literally what will dictate your success.
Yes.
What are some of your internal belief systems that are serving you or that you would guide those of us listening to adopt?
The biggest one is be very truthful and authentic with yourself. Really know who you are and why you want what you want. We've learned as entrepreneurs, your why has to be really important. And I somewhat agree with that. But your why cannot be about anybody else. It cannot.
So, like a parent usually says, it's for my kids, or some
Those are
wife will
lies.
say, I'm doing it for the family,
Those are
like those kind
lies.
of things.
Those are 100% lies. And when you really think about it, you understand what I mean. Look, I liken it to this, and this is a controversial topic, but I'll speak on it. How many people do we know that they stay together for the kids until the last child is 18 and then they get a divorce? And then they wonder why their adult kids won't speak to one of them or both of them for a few years because they feel they've been lied to. Guess what they were? That marriage was over years ago. So people sniff out lies. Inauthenticity is a vibration that is felt. It's not just heard. And to be authentic is probably one of the hardest things to really do in your life. The reason I find it so empowering is because I now find it freeing because people know who I am. They know I won't bullshit them. They know I run by my intuition first and foremost now because, girl, you know me. There's been times I've ignored my intuition and I'm right down a rabbit hole I have no business being in, and it's harmful. But if I'd listened to my intuition, which is 99.99%, then I wouldn't have had those irritations or those downfalls. Not saying I don't take them for granted. I'm grateful for them because they've taught me a lot. Yet at the same time, if I could share anything, is really understand who you are and why you do what you do. Do the work, do the internal work. That work is so important. It is uncomfortable. It is messy. It is painful. It is gross. The realisms of yourself, you're probably going to look at yourself and go, really? I don't like that. And it doesn't feel so good, but you are the creator. You created that so you can create anything else. I remind myself all the time in manifestation, if I created this that I don't like, then I create something I do like. And that's exactly what I've done many times in my life, especially now living what I'm living. It is proof entirely of manifestation. Everything that I have in my life right now, I dreamt about when I was 14, 15, and 16 years of age. But because I kept going down the rabbit holes of the shoulds, which are other people's expectations, may I add, should is other people's expectations. Point blank. When I stopped doing all those shoulds and I started doing all those Jennas, then all of a sudden, life became pretty freaking amazing. And yeah,
Oh
I
my
took
gosh.
risks and they weren't easy. And yep, sometimes I was like, what is going on? I'm scared. But then I also had to learn, and this is another thing that I've learned over the last few years. I refuse to live in fear. Refuse. Because I have to remember I am the one that can change this. Not because I know everything, but because I'm alive and breathing and I have opportunity. That's all it takes.
Yeah, I love that. How do you know if you're going down a rabbit hole? That's what I would like to know.
That is a very valid question. Okay. Everybody has this internal guidance system in their body. Emotions come second. The feeling in the body comes first. And unfortunately, we're taught not to feel. And Feelings are nothing to be afraid of. Women have so many feelings. It is so powerful. That is why we truly are the matriarchs of this planet. That's why we were birthing children, because we have so many instincts that just naturally happen. Men, the true men with a capital M, they bow down to women because they understand the presence and the power in women. So just knowing that, since you speak with a lot of women, that is right there. And I'm not saying, oh yeah, well, nah, it's not that. It is all about sisterhood. It is all about retaining a group that supports each other. And when you have had experiences, for example, you're like, I think I'm just going to drive down this alley or go down this street, but it just doesn't feel good. And then you end up getting a flat tire, or you get in an accident, or you're like, frick, I knew I shouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
That is your internal guidance system. We all have one. But because of other people's expectations, shoulds, we should do this, we should do that, not think about this, think about that. We're not feeling first, and then acting second. We get ourselves into trouble. So it really is something that we just have that gut instinct. And we've been taught in all societies today, which is unfortunate, in all societies. Think twice about that. There was this old saying in real estate that usually the first property that you really like is the right one, or the first offer you get on the property is generally your best one. It's because it's the same thing with your gut instinct, your internal guidance system. That first hit of information is actually the truth. There we go, right back to the truth and the authenticity. We're not walking around this planet without guidance. We just think we are. And it's because we haven't created that evolutionary discussion with ourselves, that trust within us. And like we were talking earlier, how many times have we gone through life and something so painful and so horrific and so confusing and devastating and scary has happened, and yet we are on the other side of that. So we've learned something. Utilize all those skills and don't
Oh
be
my
afraid of
gosh,
it.
it's so true. And it just takes practice, I think, listening to our inner guidance system, like you're saying, and trusting the feelings and then acting on it. And I love how you bring it back to the truth. It always just comes back to what feels true and real for ourselves.
And I know
Would
feelings can get really mushy and they can get very confusing. Yet I always say to my coaching clients, if something doesn't feel right, trust that. Trust that. Don't box yourself into some belief system that makes you think, oh, no, they would never do that. If something doesn't feel right, trust it and research more, ask more questions, maybe sit back and observe a little bit longer. Let time be on your side. We're always in this freaking rush to finish and fit. You know what? If we didn't have clocks or calendars, we wouldn't know how old we are. We wouldn't know that it's what, a Tuesday in freaking July of 2024. None of that matters. None of that matters. That is all dictational. We do have to abide by rules. We have bills to pay. We have laws to follow. Yes. So make sure that the responsibilities that you've signed on for, you can handle, but don't put the pressure on yourself to make it all perfect, because there is no such thing as perfect. What is that anyways? Or normal? What is that?
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, so Jenna, I want to ask you a few questions about yourself and then a few other questions. Yet, if there's anything else you wanted to share, just when it comes about overcoming insecurities, stepping into self acceptance, right? How to move towards success. Is there any last thoughts or things that you want to talk about?
Yes. When I talk about doing the work, it isn't just something that you start and stop. Doing the work, if you're doing the work, you'll be doing the work until this body expires. But how beautiful is that? And the more work you do on yourself, the more peace and acceptance you gain. So no matter what comes into your vortex, you can go, okay, look, I've gone through this and this and this before. I got through it. I was okay before this scenario. I'll be more than okay after. And that is trust in yourself. We are so fortunate to live in North America. We are not stuck in a cell in Cambodia. We are not stuck in a cage at the border. We're not there. We have so many opportunities and so many elements of freedom. So use it and don't give up on really who you actually really truly are. And I feel so strongly that if we taught our children to truly understand who they are and why they feel that way, it's not just, this is how I am. I don't like that phrase. This is just how I am. Uh-uh. Just how I am sounds so different than this is how I am and this is who I am. That is far more respectful than this is just who I am. This is just the way it is. Mm-mm. This is the way it is, and this is why. So do the work so that you have an answer to your own questions about why you tick the way you tick. And if you don't like your response, which is non-emotional, that is logical, then you have the opportunity to shift it. If you don't like your reaction, which is fully 100% emotional, you also have the information internally to shift that, to become a response, and to have the answers to back it up.
I love that. And so maybe let's use this to segue into a few of my questions I have.
Sure.
And I'm curious, after what you just shared, what is your version of success for yourself today?
Peace,
I
peace.
like it.
Funny, I say to my husband every morning when I wake up, I'm so grateful to wake up. A lot of people didn't, or they wake up in places they don't want to be, or they're extremely sick and their body is failing them, or they're terrified, or they don't know where they're going to get their next glass of clean water or even an apple from. I'm just so grateful because I am here at a place in my life. I don't have any drama in my life. I have peace in all elements. Yes, there's stress, of course, but that is manageable because I know internally all I have is peace. I don't have this internal struggle. I don't, sometimes I beat myself up, but then I catch myself and go, where is this coming from? Oh, I know where this is carrying from. The should, other people's expectations, lay it off. I know my journey is just perfect the way it is because I'm creating it. I'm the creator of it. So that I would say overwhelmingly is what follows me and walks with me every single day. And I really truly believe my spiritual practice has increased that. My yoga practice has increased that, but truly making sure that I am very authentic in everything that I do.
Mhm. Awesome. Amazing answer. What would you say to somebody who my podcast is called Entrepreneurial Elevation, Unleashing Greatness Within?
Love it.
So, what would three things be, three simple sentences that you can share to support somebody in unleashing their greatness?
Mm. Oh, I could go so deep into this. I could go so deep into this. It would be overwhelming. Okay. To unleash into their greatness, remember who you are. When you look at the science of actually becoming a an egg that has been spawned by sperm, now science has proven that it's the egg that actually chooses the sperm. Did you know that?
No.
Mind blowing. It's electromagnetic frequency. It's an understanding. So knowing that just that reason alone created you, and then you actually went through the whole entire gestational period and you actually were born and you actually are still here on this planet. I know a lot of people say they ain't nothing special about anybody. I 1,000 million, gazillion, trillion, whatever extra alphabet I can add onto that. I believe that is so untrue. It's not even funny because you are something amazingly wonderful to someone and you have already impacted their life. So don't forget that. It's not about what we make. It's not about what we have. It's not about what we desire. It's about who we are first and foremost. That is key. So whatever you do for your entrepreneurial life, please make sure it aligns with the true version of you and what you really want for your life. And if it's 15 737s, then all the power to you. Do that if that's what you want, but don't do that when you have everything else that is struggling, because that will not give you happiness. Period. We all know that. So number one is that. Number two, don't ever give up. Even in the darkest moment, and I've had many in my life. And yes, there's a couple times that I'm like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. This 3D reality really sucks. I don't like it. I'd rather be 5D 90 where I know it's amazing. But something said to me, you're not done yet. And that's a reminder. You're not done yet. So on the end of every sentence where you're thinking, I don't have the money for that yet. I don't have the time for that yet. I don't have the knowledge of that yet. I don't have that situation yet. Always add the yet at the end of the spectrum. Why wouldn't you? Just because you might not see it right in front of you, like I have this pen right in front of me now, doesn't mean that the pen wasn't sitting right in front of me for the whole entire time we were having this conversation. So that's the other element. Do not give up. And the third thing is like what we were discussing earlier is please, please, please be vulnerable enough to ask for help if you don't know. It's okay. The right people will guide you and hold your hand and not want anything from you. It doesn't always have to be an actual exchange of money. An energetic exchange, sometimes it all it is. We used to trade in donkeys and eggs, for goodness sakes. So how about collaborations? How about non-existence of jealousy, thinking that someone's better or smarter or happier or this or that or the next thing? I can't stand that. It's unfair because we are all freaking incredible beings as we are. And we have the capability of becoming even more incredible internally and externally. So why not? And it doesn't have to be a struggle.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh, such great advice and messaging. Okay, so last question I have for you.
Yes.
What would be a call to action you would give to all the listeners that they're going to be jazzed up after listening to this episode that they apply to their life this week? If there's one thing, one takeaway that they can go and actually put action to, what would that be?
I go right back to the thing, do one thing every day that fills your soul. Just for you, not including your kids, not including your wife, your husband, your mother, your father, your best friend. Nuh-uh, not even your puppy dog. One thing a day, every day that fills your cup. And funny enough, I had this conversation with a client about 3 months ago, and she's like, I can't think of anything. And she's sitting there enjoying her lovely cup of coffee. And I said, so have you already had a cup of coffee this morning? She's like, yeah. And I said, what'd you do? And she's like, I got the kids out the door to the bus and blah, blah, blah. She was going crazy with it. And I said, so how about we shift that? You really enjoy your coffee, that first cup of coffee every day, right? She's like, yeah. And I said, then why don't you wait and have it after the house is quiet? You can sit there for 10 minutes, enjoying your cup of coffee, thinking about nothing. That's soul fulfilling. And since she started doing that one little 10-minute exercise every day, do you know she herself has actually booked $10,000 worth of clients every month?
I 100% believe that to be true. I actually have a coach. I literally specifically have hired a coach to teach me how to be in what she calls pink energy, which is nothingness energy,
Yep.
still energy,
Yep.
reflective energy, recharging energy.
Yep.
And as a workaholic in the past,
Yes.
it has been a journey to get myself there.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, being in stillness, which is allowing me to cause way more productivity and results in my business life. It's counter to what I ever thought my mind used to work. There's so much truth to what you're talking about right now because I'm experiencing it.
I'm going to give you a visual. An artist buys a canvas that is blank, has no idea what they're going to put on that canvas. And then all of a sudden, a few hours, 10, 20, 30, 50 hours later, there's a masterpiece. It came from dust. It came from nothing. That is what I mean when we say we're the creators of our destiny. We're the creators of our future. We're the creators of our life. We all have that divine element within us. So we have to do something every day that fills our soul, taking that space. Because when we're taking that space for us, we're actually holding space for everyone else. It's the old adage. You can't fill a cup if your kettle's empty. And it doesn't mean we have to do. We are human beings, not human doings.
Yeah. I love it. And you're the one who taught me to be self-full, right? It's called being self-full, not selfish.
Yeah.
And so on that note, Jenna, I just want to wrap up and I want to pass the mic back to you just to share. And I'm going to put all this information, like you have just shared so much. And I know you just speak from your heart and from your knowingness. And I know there's going to be women, men, everybody listening to this that takes something away. And for those people who really have resonated with your message, I just want to know, where can we find you? Like, I'm going to put all your information in the show notes. Yet if you can share for those who are listening, where can we come and find you to learn more about your businesses, what you have to offer? Just follow you for inspiration.
Absolutely. You can actually post my own personal business, changemylifetoday.net. People can email me from there. They can text me. I've got an international number as well as United States number. They both work. If there's any questions or queries, that's probably the easiest way to find me. And I've got lots of different elements on there. I will be uploading actually a membership specific to yoga videos and meditation videos. A lot of the meditations are only 10 to 20 minutes long. They're not long. And the reason for that is because I want people to meditate. And it doesn't mean that you have to go into this other world all the time, but it's a start. I think that's probably the easiest way that they can find me.
Okay, awesome. And just to close up, what do you have coming down the pipeline? Anything you want to share that you're going to be launching here in the near future?
Yes, absolutely. So, of course, there's going to be bodybalance.org. We're finishing that website right now. Mindbalance.org is definitely on there. We're making strides in the mental health care. We really want it is very much patient-centric and keeping practitioners happy as well. But the bigger one, I think, is my book. I'm still working on that. It's a lifelong journey. It's very vulnerable. It's hard for me to write. That's why it's taking me so long to write it, because I am feeling all the emotions that I'm writing within it. That'll be launched fairly soon. And then my new modeling website will be up pretty quick, jennajeffries.com. So it's fun. Lots of projects on the go. That's for sure. But why not?
Why not? Why not? Oh my gosh, I've loved having you here. You're like a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for being on and sharing and being my friend and being one of those girls in my sisterhood throughout all the years. And
always. I adore you, always have. I'm super proud of everything that you do. This podcast, I'm so proud of you for doing this. You deserve all of it. And hey, I'm here for you anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, bye, Jenna.
Bye. Love you.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing episode with my friend Jenna. I loved everything that she was sharing. Really just about trusting ourselves, getting clear on who we are, right? Being authentic, which is being honest with ourselves and others, and working through insecurities by stepping into a mindset of not having fear because we have the faith that everything is working out for us, and being resilient focusing on solutions. So many nuggets in that episode. And Jenna really is just such a special person and a special friend. If you enjoyed her message, definitely check her out. She also does readings. And so if you're somebody who would like a reading, or you have a yoga practice, or you want to get into yoga, those would be two things that you could really take advantage of when it comes to Jenna right now. So I would say get a reading from her. She really is an intuitive, and she's phenomenal, and she has your best interests at heart, and she's great at what she does. So if you like this episode, just a friendly reminder to like, comment, leave a review. As always, I appreciate it. And just once again, thank you so much for listening. With love, greatness, and success, it's your host, Kelly Beveridge.